them one at a time. You mark one at a time, then you pull them all out, pull the crank out, and then you grind.
Correct.
Hang on.
Hey everybody, this is Carl Outline. I'm here with Joel Banyai. And Joel's just gonna go freeform. He's gonna ask a bunch of questions. He's come, I guess he's over in Virginia working for a while and visiting. So I figured it'd be awesome to have him come on over and check out the shop.
Now, let me ask you a different question. You said you bottle brush hone these. There's quite a bit of marking inside the cylinders.
Yeah.
Do you think,
good question.
Was that present before the dyno?
Yeah, not all of it, but you'll see any of those other marks, those are just cosmetic. Those aren't.
Which marks are you referring to?
Let's say all these. Those wouldn't cause, they're just cosmetic. So those aren't any kind of finger scratch kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't even feel them. You're saying the ones in the direction of the piston, not the hone marks, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, on the other bank, on the passenger side bank, I noticed there was a little bit of...
No, it was here, that rust one?
No, not the rust, right at the top. I wanted to ask about this. Does that even matter? Because that's where the crown is, right?
Yep, it's even above the ring. You can see where the ring stops at.
Right. So really, that's a non-critical area. As long as the piston will slide in, that's not a big deal, right?
Yep, that's not a big deal at all. That is a cosmetic stain. If you have you just rebuilt, you tore yours down, and you want to get it cleaned up, and you want to put it back together, there'll be gunk there. You got to get all that gunk off, and you can leave a stain. There's no problem with stains.
And the gunk removal is just so you can put the piston back in without messing up the rings.
Exactly.
Because otherwise the rings are going to catch that and put it in the ring lands, right?
And the dirt, there'll be dirt everywhere. So
Okay.
you'll have whatever dirt is here. Now, I did a video where I tried to recover these pistons. Here, I'll get the bad one.
These are the pistons out of this block,
yeah,
right?
because these were all scratched and dirty, but they were still in good shape. Now, this is like 2,000 grit sandpaper.
So you're just polishing at that point, right?
Yep. But when you do that, you got to make sure you cleaned everything. So I cleaned them, but somehow that piece of dirt right there, that was not there until I put it in and ran it at the dyno and didn't catch wherever that piece of dirt came from.
You have any thought where that thing was hiding? I mean, was there anything maybe in the oil ring?
Well, no, I mean, it certainly could have been there. The rings probably didn't get put in the parts washer. It could, the pistons all get put in the parts washer and cleaned up.
So say if there's a home engine builder, you took a motor apart, do you have to take the piston rings off to clean them properly?
Yeah.
So is the right procedure to clean the pistons and the rings separately and then reassemble?
If I would say it depends. If you are you've got an engine already, it'll be gritty, and any engine will have grit and carbon and stuff. So they usually do okay if you are taking it apart. Maybe you put new bearings on, wipe it up a little bit, put it back together. It ought to live on that. It shouldn't have had that won't be. I have no idea. See where this debris came in. This main here, this embedded itself in this one main here.
That's a pretty large gash right there. Is that a single piece that got dragged?
Yep. Is that right? Yep, right here. So the rest of them are fine. I noticed in my video that there's a little bit here too. Some of these dots are the debris. Know that you could put an engine together and run it forever and not know that you've had something like this.
I was going to say, this engine made how much horsepower on the dyno?
Like 500 flat.
As it is right now.
Yeah, yep. I don't think this would have always been a little bit of oil consumption because of that line there, because it drags oil up with it. That would have might have not really smoked that much if you ran it in your car, but if you're paying for someone's motor, because this is sort of a resale from my friends, the motor needs to be better than a junk motor. So what's going to happen, these will get a real hone by the machine shop. Probably have to go to 40 over, and it'll be new pistons.
Now, you only have to do that one bore, or you're going to have to go 40 over everything?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
Is it possible to run a single 40 over piston, or are you going to have balance issues doing that?
I think it is possible. The balance is not as fine as people lead you to believe, especially with our medium RPM. The balances are not an exact science, so I don't know if anyone's ever done that before, but if you can't spend all of your hot rod money, you only got some bucks, it would be worth just getting one piston, just doing a 40 over if all the rest of your bores were nice.
Have you ever measured pistons from the same manufacturer, say a 10 over, 30 over, 40 over? Any idea how many grams difference that is?
They're within one.
Within 1 gram.
Yep. No matter what the brand. I stick with Molly. They're always exact. This company, any other like SRP, JE, it's within a gram.
So what level of precision do you need to do when you're measuring all that stuff? Is it down to half a gram?
Nah.
Quarter of a gram?
1 gram.
1 gram is as precise as you need to go.
Yep.
Okay.
You'll see shops try to do it to a half a gram, but it's really, if they can do it, good. But you can't, the engine's not going to be able to measure or feel it.
I gotcha. And this is the crankshaft that came out of this motor here?
That is, yeah. So
how do the mains look? If you have
what
just
about
this
number 4
run time.
What's number 4 where that one line was? Yep, this thing was only polished because this was a used engine, right?
Boy, there are some divots in there, some pitting, opposite of where you're at. Keep turning and you'll see it.
Probably smeared.
Oh, it looks a lot cleaner now.
But with my reading glasses, I can't see anything super deep. But the balance shop polishes those real, and it's quick and easy. He'll have it on the balance machine. It's done in 5 minutes, so like a little polish.
Yeah, it sure doesn't take much.
Not much at all.
Hey, so while we've got this here, I noticed that the front driver's side corner of the block, you haven't radiused it for oil drain back. One of your videos, you did that.
Yep, and this one I did not.
Does it matter that much? Otherwise the oil's going to go to the back of the head, correct?
It only matters if you're using MLS head gaskets. A stock gasket doesn't block it off.
Oh.
But certain ones do. Felpro. Let's see if a Felpro blocks it off. The Felpro blocks it off a little bit. And this
is a 1074?
Right, yep, a 1074. And so it wouldn't probably, the head would probably cover that. But there, it doesn't block it all the way.
Okay.
But that's hardly very much for a drain back. And that's the only corner, right? The others don't do that.
Yeah, it is funny. If you look at the driver's side rear, passenger side rear is plenty of clearance. Driver or passenger side front, you got lots of room.
This one totally blocks it.
Oh, the opening's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Who are those made by? Comedic?
Comedic, yep.
Comedic.
Now, if I had a stock one, it's not an Impala one, but it's...
Is this the GM aluminum head gasket?
Yeah, if it's a Camaro, it's a... So you check that out.
Oh, look at that. It's got plenty of clearance.
Yeah.
So GM just designed the gasket around it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, say nowadays you don't have to get the GM gasket, this would be a replacement for it here.
That's the 5716G.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got the small opening right there.
Okay, something to see. The GM has, it's this side up kind of thing. Small here and this big one here. And if you did it to this Mr. Gasket one, oh look, the Mr. Gasket one wouldn't block it because it's cut short right there. So Be like that. But something to look at whenever you're doing this stuff. Something to look at.
So what do you keep in stock for head gaskets? What's the most common ones that you're using?
The Cometics, because they're hard to get. You know, like if you want it, customers like 27 thou Cometics, 40 thou Cometics. I stocked up on them back when they were getting hard to get. 35 thou Cometics. Like whenever I get a chance, I order them. Because if it's time to finish an engine and it's, hey, I want to set a dyno time up, and it's like, all I need is put the heads on. Well, I need the gaskets. These Mr. Gaskets are for the non-blower ones. And the Molly ones here are the stock style also, but they don't have the big gap there.
Yeah, that is just a small hole.
Yeah, they just
Do you have a preferred supplier of these?
Summits.
Okay.
And that's because it's wholesale. The wholesale end of Summit is called A-Tech. So like engine builders go through A-Tech or Motorsports. They have a little bit of a discount, not a big one. So might as well just call it Summit because it's the same company.
Have you ever had somebody that had a low mileage set, or maybe a set of head gaskets that hadn't seen a whole lot of cycling? Are they one-time use? Could somebody ever get away with reusing them?
You could reuse them up. My buddies have reused them numerous times. I'll reuse at least a Felpro 1074 on my own stuff. Can't do that with customer stuff, but...
Well, so what happens, so say you have a Felpro 1074, you screw the head down, you torque it down because you're trying to measure push rod length, or check something that involves the total height, the total installed height, but you never fire the engine. I mean, can you reuse that if it's just been torqued once?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You could reuse it forever. Yeah. It's like...
And that's specifically the 1074?
Yep. And of course, the Cometic, any MLS you can keep reusing.
Really?
Yeah, they're reusable.
Okay.
The stock style, might come off. If you're going to take it apart and pull it off, it might come off as a goo.
Well, so like,
like
this motor's got a ton of residue on it.
Yep.
So obviously this is not reusable.
Nope, that's it right in the trash, that gasket.
So is that a situation where how many miles was that gasket on there? Or is this just a dyno
This
gasket?
was the dyno.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it left this. And what gasket was this?
The Mr. Gasket.
Okay. So you've got a number of gasket thicknesses. I see you talk anywhere from 40 thou on down.
It was this one.
Yeah, there's your old one.
Yeah.
You've got a number of gasket thicknesses. Do you use those to set compression ratio or quench height?
Yep.
What goes into gasket selection?
Just to keep it from like 30, 35 thou to 40 thou quench height. Because the piston just needs that distance. You can't put it, like say if someone needs more compression rate, or I mean more volume so that they can lower their compression ratio, you could do a 60 thou or even more, but I just try to keep it target 40, 35 is okay, and maybe 32 is about as tight as you can go, because these aren't high RPM engines.
Now, when you say high RPM, let's clarify that a little bit. Are we talking 6,000 versus 65 versus 7,000?
6,000 is low RPM, 7,000's beginning to get up there, but high RPM is about like 8,000.
Okay.
Yeah, 7,000 is not too bad for high RPM. All right, so let me put this away. See, this wasn't even decked. So when this will go to the machine shop, it'll get a good deck flattening. It'll a minimum amount, like say 5 thou, whatever is needed to get it nice and flat. I don't like to take it to 9.000 because then intakes are hard to fit. And why take it down? So why not keep it at like 9.010? It's always so this being minus 20, that's almost like stock. This has never been decked.
So that minus 20 means 20 thousandths in the hole?
Yep, in the hole.
Now, can you buy pistons that have a higher compression height to take that out?
Only custom, because they just don't make them. There's one company, Ross, that their shelf pistons are 7 thou compression height more than the standard, like all the other brands. So if this is a this isn't a 1.25. I can't. It's more for a 5.7 rod, but the typical 6-inch rod, 383, the piston would be a 1.125. But a Ross shelf piston will be add 7 to that, so it'll be like a 1.132, which is kind of nice to have a 7 more thou. So it might be, let's say, if you were 0 decked, it'll be 7 thou out, but that's fine.
So let me ask a couple of piston rod questions before you put that away.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like that wrist pin is well out of the oil ring.
Yeah.
And remind me which stroke this engine is?
3.75.
Okay, so this is a 383, and this is a 5.7-inch rod, correct?
Probably a 5.7 rod, yeah.
Okay, because I noticed that the wrist pin is well away from the oil ring. Obviously, when you stroke an engine, you can't bring the piston higher, you only bring it lower. And so what ends up happening is you have to move the wrist pin up into the piston. Yeah. So like say if you had a 396 with a 3 7/8 stroke crank and a 6-inch rod, you're going to have the wrist pin up in the oil ring, correct?
Yep.
Now, are there any oil ring durability issues that arise from having something like that?
I don't know from experience. It's like when you're running these aftermarket and hot rod things, who knows? The only people that know are people with spintrons, and nobody has spintrons, and they're not doing tests like that. They're doing it for valve train. So in theory, I would say no. There is no trouble because they put, there's a rail that'll go there that gives it its firmness, and I've never had any trouble.
So while we're talking about that, I mean, rod length, do you have any thoughts on 5.7 versus 6-inch rods?
No. Whatever you like, I think. I don't think there's any difference in longevity or side loading or anything like that. There's just people have preferences, I think, for budget and what kits are available. The 6-inch rod is such a good combo, and these pistons are made for 6-inch rods. They're highly available. I got a stock of Compstar 6-inch rods there, so when there's a shortage of them, at least I have some, and then I can order some.
So tell me about these blue binders. I mean, when you're organizing a build for a customer, you keep all the paperwork in these binders. How do you organize all that information?
That's my organization. Let's say all my notes go on here, and it'll be scribbles, but that's where all my scribbles are. And if I do bearing clearances or something, it'll all be written here. Then that'll go on to, when the engine's done, it'll go on a neat and tidy build sheet.
So when it comes to crankshafts, the LT1 factory crankshaft is internally balanced on the front. It's externally balanced on the rear. So there's a weight on the flex plate. So if you're building a stroker and you do have to send the flex plate to the machine shop for balancing, correct? Do they knock that weight off?
Well, they could do that. Depends on your rotating assembly. If you, like say you get something from Eagle and you spec it out as like the forged stuff, that'll come neutral. Or if you go to Scat and you order a kit, usually that'll be an external. It's just easier for them to get their crankshaft counterweights in there. So that'll be external. So that'll be like a stock flex plate. I'll show you the two styles. If you get a neutral kit, we all know what a weighted flex plate looks like. The stock one has that counterweight. That will have to go with to the machine shop. And most of the time, they may have one from the shop. If you don't send it, you just tell them it's external, and they have one.
So is that weight pretty standard then?
Yep, they're all the same.
So if it has a weight, it will be the same for a small block Chevy.
Yep. So if you have someone else's junkyard part, you can use that one. If yours is cracked, just use your buddy's. If you're going neutral, and you don't need to do SFI, you just get a TCI. They're like $100.
How many teeth are on an LT1 flex plate? Is it 153 or 168?
153.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say you're at a swap meet, you find a small block Chevy crankshaft that's in good shape, you measure it, it's the stroker crankshaft you're looking for, the guy makes you a killer deal, but he doesn't remember if it's weighted or neutral.
Super good question, and I have the answer. The balance guy is going to know as soon as he chucks it up, or whatever they call it, puts the bob weights on and spins it. He's just going to know, oh, this thing needs external, or yeah, it looks like it's going to be neutral.
So the machine shop will know right off the bat. Okay.
1.08. I don't know the distance for a base circle. Yeah, it's bigger than 1.1.
Right, so that lobe is constrained to the total diameter
Yeah.
of the bearing, right?
Yeah, but that's about where it'll go.
So that looks like about halfway into the dog bone?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Proven used lifters are sometimes better than unproven, aftermarket. If it gets sharp here, well, that's because it's been worn down too much. And it's the typical wear. And the one thing that is they have a pressurized oil feed there. And a Timken one. Here's a Timken one. I bought a few.